Gibraltar agrees a 15% sales tax on goods in a post-Brexit settlement with Spain. I'm going to read into this more from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here from an article from The Guardian with the headline that Gibraltar agrees a 15% sales tax on goods in a post-Brexit settlement with Spain. The transaction tax acceptable to EU is part of a deal to join the border-free Schengen zone and link with the customs union. Just a reminder to hit that like button and share it across social media so I can notify this video. So let me explain that in two ways why in a part it's a good thing and in part it's a bad thing. Okay, so the first of all, from the good point of view, okay, because this is something obviously that from the EU's perspective, Gibraltar were getting Gibraltar not having some kind of 15% sales tax meant that people could easily transfer from there into Spain with returns on goods. Because in order for Gibraltar to be part of the Schengen zone, there had to be some concessions in doing so. And this will allow Gibraltar to have a bit more ease when it comes to their relationship between themselves and Spain, especially for people living in Gibraltar, to be a bit more freedom of it allows obviously for them for the freedom of movement. And for them, it also aligns the sales that they make as well as in standard with the rest of the EU. Now, from the bad perspective is obviously the increase in sales tax, which many will see it as unfair. It could bring harm to the Gibraltar economy in doing so as well. But the other thing why this is in a part the bad thing, and people have to remember this, is that, well, it's because of Brexit. All of this has happened because of Brexit. Because we are no longer part of the European Union, part of the single market and customs union. This is all a consequence of not being a part of that. But Gibraltar will now be a part of the customs union. But it had to make concessions in order to be a part of that customs union. And this 15% sales tax is the concession that it had to make. This was also something that the UK government had to make concessions on. Because if the UK wants to have closer alignment with the European Union, it had to sort out Gibraltar. It had to sort this out because otherwise Spain would veto any kind of deals or progress that the UK would make within its in order to improve its trading relationship, try to reduce red tape that we have input on ourselves because we've left the European Union. So this is also an example of Brexit harming us more than benefiting us. Let's be clear about this. This is all because we left the European Union. This is because of Brexit. And 98% of people in Gibraltar who had their vote on this as well, they voted to remain. People forget that as well. And for all that time, the Conservative government sat on the issue of Gibraltar, never bothered dealing with it, never bothered discussing it. They may have done, but they never tried to find a solution to this. At least this Labour government, whatever your criticisms of it, have gotten off their asses and done something about this issue. And it needed to be done. Because if we want to make things better for ourselves, we have to make closer alignment. I know this 15 sales tax seem unfair, and I agree, it feels unfair, but Gibraltar were in a bind. They had to sort out this situation. The UK government needed to sort this out. I also understand the criticism that people have with Spanish borders at the airport and on the border between them and Spain. However, again, I think that had to happen. It had to happen because Gibraltar is essentially part of the customs union. There was no getting around that. So I couldn't see the Spanish not being a part of that integral part. As for the concession that some reform people are claiming that Gibraltar has given up their sovereignty is complete and total nonsense. They have not given up their sovereignty. They're still their own island. They're not connected. They're not a part of Spain. It's because of where it is geography-wise. It's because of where it is in terms of the situation with regards to Brexit that they had to make this deal. Is it right that they had to make these concessions to the British government? Yeah, in the minds of many people, probably not. But this is the situation that we are in, and this is the impact that we have because of Brexit, because of leaving the European Union. So all these people who are complaining about Gibraltar giving up its independence of these agreements, these are the same people that voted to leave the European Union. So, but sovereignty, right? Because they don't want to give up sovereignty. But you see where I'm coming from, don't you? So, Gibraltar will apply a 15% sales tax on goods to avoid unfair competition with Spain. As a result of the agreement in the post-Brexit failure of the British overseas territory, it has emerged. The territory has agreed to ensure a 15% minimum transaction tax on goods within 3 years. So there's 3 years still of the ratification of the agreement, according to a senior European official. Quote, for Gibraltar, it was a big ask. They have always claimed that this taxation will create for them a serious economic problem, the official said. The European Commission insisted that the British territory had to align its taxation policies with the EU in order to join a customs union, an integral part of the deal struck on Wednesday. The agreement that we have reached is that they will, in a period of 3 years, reach a level on a transaction tax that is acceptable for us, the person said. The agreement, held as is historic, will erase the border separation at the British overseas territory from the rest of the Iberian Peninsula. Gibraltar will be connected to the EU borders-free Schengen zone, meaning Gibraltarians can move freely in the surrounding region, although without rights to work and settle elsewhere in the European Union. Passport checks will be carried out at the port and airport by British and Spanish border guards. Spanish officers will be empowered to deny entry to British overseas territory to any British national who has already exceeded their 90-day stay limit. Yeah, you have to remember that you cannot be there for more than 90 days, otherwise you'll be basically sent back. And I'm sorry, but this is what we call the benefits of Brexit, guys. Under the Schengen rules, UK citizens are limited to stays of 90 days within a 180-day period. Spanish custom officials will also check goods entering Gibraltar via the land border, the main entry point for nearly all items. The British overseas territory will eventually enter into a customs union with the EU, which will require a further agreement. So the long-term plan is for Gibraltar to be part of the European Union, the customs union. So that is coming down the road. Spain's Foreign Minister, Jose Manuel Alvarez, has welcomed the tax coverage process that will ensure that everyone is treated fairly, he said. Now Gibraltar is linked to the customs union, there will be a fair competition for everybody. Madrid has long been concerned that cigarettes from Gibraltar have been illegally sold in Spain, while European anti-fraud investigators have warned about cross-border smuggling by organised crime. The government of Gibraltar, which is responsible for settling taxation on the British overseas territory, has been contacted for comment. The Gibraltar agreement came weeks after the UK and EU agreed on a wider reset. EU sources said that completing the unfinished business of Brexit for Gibraltar was necessary to move forward in other areas such as defence and a veterinary agreement. Spain has been blocking British participation in defence projects and could have proven an obstacle into future deals if the status of Gibraltar had not been agreed. Quote, everyone wants to find compromise, solution, etc., and this was the right move to do that, the official said. A spokesperson for Gibraltar's government said Gibraltar will now move to a de facto import duty rate to be called a transaction tax, to which no lower than the lowest in the EU. That is currently 17% in Luxembourg. Gibraltar will start at 15% on the day the treaty comes into effect and rising 1% each year for the next 2 years. The Foreign Secretary David Lammy told the House of Commons this week that Gibraltar will not be applying VAT and will maintain its physical sovereignty. So that's the current situation right now with Gibraltar, but obviously further agreements need to be made with that. There are still things that need to be agreed, but that is the current situation right now with Gibraltar. Now, for all those again screaming sovereignty, well, you voted Brexit, you voted for Brexit, so you voted for us to be out of the European Union. What on earth did you expect was going to happen to Gibraltar? So for all those crying foul about what's happening in Gibraltar right now, who did vote for Brexit, I'm sorry, but you can't really complain about this situation because this is the price we pay for not being a part of the European Union. We didn't have this issue before the European Union. Gibraltar was doing just fine before Brexit, and this hassle is all done because of the situation that we are in now. But at least this Labour government has gotten off its arse and done something about it, as opposed to the Conservatives who kind of sat on their laurels. Is it perfect? No. And the UK government had to make concessions, and so did Gibraltar. Is it fair? No. But that's the reality of the situation that we are in, I'm afraid. and the situation that Gibraltars are going to be in for a while now, I'm afraid. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of the situation on Gibraltar? What do you guys make of the 15% sales tax on goods in post-Brexit settlement with Spain? Let me know your thoughts on all of this and more down in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting and informative, hit that like button, share it across social media, subscribe if you haven't to already, and check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content. And do consider joining the YouTube membership for as little as 99p. That join button right down below the screen here. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.